Okay, I'm going to read a little excerpt from the New York Times. Just a little back, you don't have to list, just listen. In 1962, Mr. Reston was apparently the only reporter who found out that the Soviet Union, then under the leadership of Nikita Khrushchev, had secreted nuclear missiles in Cuba, only 90 miles from Florida. When Kennedy realized that Mr. Reston had the information, he telephoned him directly. 4 years later, Mr. Reston recounted the incident to C. Clifton Daniel, then managing editor of the Times. The president told me that he was going on television on Monday evening to report to the American people, Mr. Reston recalled. He said that if we published the news about the missiles, Khrushchev would actually give him an ultimatum before he went on the air. I told the president I would report to my office in New York, Mr. Reston continued, and if my advice was asked, I would recommend we do not publish. It was my duty to decide. Kennedy then called Mr. Dreyfus, the publisher, and asked him not to print Mr. Reston's article. Mr. Dreyfus left the matter up to Reston and his staff, and the article was withheld. I'm not sure which version's exactly right, but it happened in that order, so to speak. Okay? That'll move us to Sunday, October 21st. Pretty tense Saturday, the 20th. Sunday, October 21st. Now remember, Kennedy's going to go where? Speech on Monday. Okay? So he's thinking about it this day. Well, early in the morning of October 21st, a Sunday, President and Mrs. Kennedy attended Mass at St. Stephen's Church in Washington, D.C. The morning of the 21st, the President and Mrs. Kennedy attended Mass at St. Stephen's Church in D.C. After the services were over, President Kennedy called Bobby and said, "Tell Kenneth O'Donnell to get General LeMay. I'd like to meet with him one more time about the possibility of airstrikes," which tells you that Kennedy Sunday morning was still considering airstrikes because he wanted to get more information from LeMay. So after the church services, the president calls Bobby. He says, "Call Kenneth O'Donnell and tell him, have him get a hold of General LeMay. I want to talk again about the scenario of the airstrikes." So Kenneth O'Donnell gets a hold of LeMay, and LeMay brings General Walter Sweeney with him. Remember, he was the commander of the U.S. Tactical Air Command. He's the guy going to paint the targets, so to speak. Okay? So not only does LeMay meet with President Kennedy on Sunday morning, he also brings Walter Sweeney as well. Now, it was actually General Sweeney that provided further information about the scenario of the airstrikes against both the missiles and the missile launching pads in Cuba. He briefed the president went over again, if we go with airstrikes, this is what's going to happen. We're going to hit the missiles and the missile sites, blah, blah, blah. Well, the president then asked Sweeney, he said, "Can you guarantee me, General, that you can get 100% of the missiles if you airstrike?" His response was, "I can guarantee you we'll get 100% of the missiles that we know about." So that wasn't a full stage guarantee. So he gives President Kennedy, General Sweeney gives President Kennedy the scenario. If the airstrikes could guarantee 100% destruction of the missiles in Cuba, and Sweeney stated that he could guarantee 100% of the missiles that we knew about. Okay? Well, General LeMay stepped in and he said, "Mr. President, we'll guarantee 90% of the missiles. We'll guarantee you we'll get 90% of the missiles." Either they knew about or didn't know about. That's what he was saying. Well, Kennedy tells both Sweeney and LeMay that he's going to brief congressional leaders the next evening at 5 p.m. He tells Sweeney and LeMay that he's first, before his speech, going to brief congressional leaders at 5. So what is he saying there? He's actually going to tell Congress about this before he tells the American people. And what's he hoping for, Maddie? Full support, baby. Full support. I'm briefing Congress, and I want those congressional leaders to say, "Yep, this is a great idea. We're right behind you," before he goes on national television. So he informs both LeMay and Sweeney that he's going to brief the congressional leaders the next evening at 5. Does he tell them what he's going to do? Has he made up his mind yet? No. Okay? Well, the president then gets hold of General Maxwell Taylor and tells Taylor of his intentions, that he will brief Congress at 5 o'clock the next morning, and he tells him to put all United States Armed Forces worldwide at DEFCON 3. Okay? The president then informs General Maxwell Taylor of his intentions, and he tells him to put the United States Armed Forces worldwide on DEFCON 3, beginning at 7 p.m. Monday night. He has ordered, as Commander-in-Chief, General Maxwell Taylor, to put the United States of America worldwide on DEFCON 3, beginning at 7 o'clock, which tells you that's when he's going to give what? His speech. Now, you might say, what the hell does that mean? Well, I'll tell you. Here's DEFCON 5. Normal peacetime readiness. Okay? We're on DEFCON 5 right now, I would guess, in this country. Normal peacetime readiness. And you're going to need to know these because we're going to move down. DEFCON 4. It's normal, but increased intelligence and strengthened security measures. DEFCON 4 is normal, same as DEFCON 5, with the exception of some increased intelligence and some strengthened security measures. That would be DEFCON 4. Normal, with increased intelligence and strengthened security measures. DEFCON 3, which is what he placed the United States on, or is going to, at 7 o'clock Monday night, is increase in force readiness above normal readiness. Increase in force readiness above normal readiness. Increase in force readiness above normal readiness. DEFCON 2. Further increase in force readiness. Further increase in force readiness, but less than maximum readiness. Further increase in force readiness, but less than maximum readiness. And DEFCON 1 is maximum force readiness. You are going to war. Maximum force readiness. DEFCON 5, normal peacetime readiness. DEFCON 4, normal. Increased intelligence and strengthened security measures. DEFCON 3, increase in force readiness above normal readiness. DEFCON 2, further increase in force readiness, but less than maximum readiness. And DEFCON 1, maximum force readiness. All right, kiddos, you know what we're going to do now? We are going to start the first 45 minutes of 13 days. And you will see, your job here is to maybe have your pictures out of those people I gave you, and maybe have your little notes out, I don't know, that I gave you today, and just kind of make sure that you know what's going on in comparison to the lecture. Okay? And we're